The World Athletics Championships will hit the start line in a couple of weeks. July 15 goes on to the 24th in Eugene, Oregon, in the United States. So in today's 10 Minutes to Your Health, we're going to touch on the female triad. Don't know what that is? Well, I don't either. But we've got physical therapist Douglas Evelyn here on set. Good evening, Mr. Evelyn. I just he just told me a story about that, which is why it's a 10-minute story again. Every day
I allocate about 2 minutes of my time to explaining people my last name. So it's like, oh, my name is Douglas Evelyn. Oh, Evelyn, Mr. Evelyn. So yeah, so understand.
Well,
it's here again.
About 30 seconds and the 2 minutes. Exactly. Female triad, I know triad means like 3 parts.
Yeah, 3 parts, yes.
So what are we talking about here?
Okay, so with the female athlete triad, it has to do with all issues that are related. So females who have issues with their menstrual cycle, also with their bone density, and also with eating disorders. So the 3 of them are often interrelated. So if you're not eating enough, then that causes issues with your hormones, and that can throw off the menstrual cycle of the female, and it's normally seen in young female athletes as well as older female athletes because they're training so hard that the amount of food that they're getting and the amount of work that they're doing doesn't add up.
But I would think, let's look at a professional athlete before we look at the younger ones. I would think a professional athlete would know that. What time I go and train, I eat 3 hours before, I do this, I do that, no?
The thing is that it is known that they've been placing more emphasis on professional athletics, that the women and also the men are getting actual nutritional advice from the entire team so that they can know how much calories they need to take in versus how much they're expending. Because if you are taking in 3,000 calories but you're expending 6,000, then there's a clear mismatch and you're in a calorie deficit, and that can bring on these issues.
What comes first? The fact that you don't eat properly, then everything else happens, or that comes first?
Because it's about energy availability, so it's the amount of energy that you have to do things. So if you are taking in less calories than you're consuming, then it can cause a major mismatch.
I'm into sports heavily, not necessarily, not track and field, but
Really?
I work track and field.
Really?
But,
Okay.
but I've never heard of this before. Okay. So where did this come from?
It's been around for ages, from the first set of female athletes that took the track or got into sports, because we tend to mainly focus on the men. We tend to not really look at
by the way, it doesn't happen to the men, does it?
The thing is with the men, it also affects them as well because, again, they're not taking in enough calories and they're also expending so much. But because men aren't as regulated by so many hormones, that they will get the injuries because they're not eating enough, so the protein and the bone mineral density will decrease. So they will get injured and fail to recover from injury as fast.
Explain bone density.
Okay, so because of the absorption of calcium and vitamin D, if your hormone levels are off, especially in women, then the bones will have stress fractures. So if you're training for sprints, long distance events, you're more prone to stress fractures in the legs.
I guess if you're hurt, if you're an athlete and you're hurt, you would know that. But does the athlete know what's going on? Does the athlete know, well, I kind of feel different?
Yes, because they will have severe fatigue, but because they're not, oh, I have to train, I have to go out there, I have to do this, I have to perform, they push themselves, and then this further exacerbates the situation.
Talk to me again with what happens at the start and how it affects the menstrual cycle.
Okay, because if you're not eating enough, then the body is like, okay, we are in a calorie deficit, severe calorie deficit. We need to turn off some things, and this is controlled by estrogen. So if you have low levels of estrogen in the body, the menstrual cycle is severely affected. And this can even cause being not able to have infertility issues down the line. Wow. So hence why a lot of athletes who have been competing for years tend to not be able to have children later down.
Wow, I didn't know that. I'm learning a lot. All right, so this happens. How do you fix it? What do you do?
How do you fix it?
Or do you? How can you stop it?
How can you stop it?
Because I guess you would want to stop it before you try to fix it.
So at the beginning of each season, athletes should go through a pre-participation physical examination to see what exactly is going on and what we need to fix or what we need to sort out before the season even starts. So if you realize that when you ask them certain questions like, okay, how is the menstrual cycle? How are you feeling? How are your energy levels? And when we do these tests and we realize that, okay, their energy availability is very low, then we talk to the coaches and talk to the person about getting proper nutrition and getting a team together, because it can also have psychological effects, because you want to be as thin as possible so that the muscle mass to performance ratio is greater. Because if you have fat on you and you're a sprinter, then it's going to slow you down. So it's like putting a Tundra engine in a Fit. That's the main aim. So you want to be fast, you want to be explosive. But if you put a Fit engine in a Tundra,
It's not gonna work.
it's not gonna work.
I am surprised because again we've gone so far with our expertise in coaching. I actually mentioned it on air during the national championships just last weekend, and I was thinking that we've seen so many great coaches coming up and athletes are coming from the different areas of Jamaica that we probably would normally see. So I'm surprised that these same great coaches would not teach, show the athletes, says, listen, this is going to happen if you don't do that.
Yes.
Are you not surprised about that?
Yes, it's very surprising, but then what speaks at the end of the day is results. So if you are pushing an athlete that, yeah, man, you need to train, you need to go, they tend to overlook everything else that is going on in their life. So that's...
Who tends to overlook, the athlete or the coach?
Both. Because, as I said, at the end of the day, it's performance. If you're a great coach, it's shown by the results that you produce. Like, oh, I coach this athlete, they do great times, and consistently winning medals.
But if you're a great coach, you would know that the only way you're going to get great times and win is if the entire body is looked after, which means you start with nutrition.
And the thing is, but that has, as our coaches are getting more professional, that is what is being realized, that it takes an entire team to make the team great.
As a physiotherapist, and you are a physiotherapist, is it physiotherapist or physical therapist?
It depends which region you're in. Some people just say physiotherapist, physical therapist.
But that's the same person.
Yeah, man, same person.
How are you involved in all of this? Can you help these athletes? What do you do?
Yes, so physical therapists are integral into the pre-participation physical examination, so that we would know what conditions to look for, and if we see that the person having an injury, you're a sprinter and you're having stress fractures in your tibia, we're like, that's an overuse injury, so clearly something is going off with your bone mineral density. If we look at you and we realize that certain muscle groups are underdeveloped, we say, probably this athlete isn't consuming enough calories and they're doing too much. So then we would speak to their coach and the rest of their team so that we can create a program so that this person can repair whatever injury is there, as well as deal with the underlying cause.
Yeah. By the way, the tibia is the bone inside there. So
Shin.
Or as my boy them say, shank.
Shank.
Where them get it from, I don't know. I'm just say, coaching on a shank guard. So I said, where is your shank, please? Them say, coach, right? Just, this is interesting. This is interesting. I can't ask you to say who, but do we have any senior athletes who would have been going through this as far as you know? And I'm not asking, even if you know, I'm not asking you to tell me.
Some of them have gone through it, but it was detected early and it was rectified.
Okay. So what I got out of this is that ensure that you're doing the right things all the time. Nutrition is
key.
Yeah. I remember telling the students, and this is a true story, I remember telling the students, and this is not mine, and he could attest to that, they're supposed to eat about 2.5, 3 hours before you perform in football anyway, because the food has to be digested. This young man, true story, in schoolboy football, did not do that. Had like a bun and cheese just before the game because he was hungry. The game starts, and a ball hits him in his stomach. Just the ball hits him in his stomach. He went down, emergency operation, because the food tie up in his intestines because it was, because it wasn't digested properly. Almost lost him. So it's not a joke thing. And some of us feel, say, no, man, coach, me hungry, man, I'm a good coach. And you're going on the field and you're eating. Crazy. Yeah. You can't get optimum performance if you behave like that.
And it's all about the quality of nutrition as well,
Yeah,
because,
man.
as I said, like school, in the schools, you feeding the children, bun and cheese,
man.
box drink, all of these
Now go
things,
ahead,
just
come
to sustain them, and you expect them to do so much.
Now go help them,
So-
especially on game day when there's stress and everything.
Yeah,
Now
so
go help them. Good to see you. Good to see you. Physical therapist, Mr. Douglas Evelyn. 10 minutes to your health. We'll do it again next Thursday.